Texas coast as a powerful Category 1 hurricane. One of the hardest hit areas was Houston, Texas, where stifling heat still taking a toll on recovery efforts. That's where we find our very own national correspondent, Justin Michaels, this morning. And Justin, we've been talking a lot about the homes without power, businesses, too, that still can't get up and running. And the crazy to think about is this, Justin, is as hot as it is, it could be worse. We've seen some of the humidity levels not as high as what we could typically find in the month of July there in Houston.
Well, Alex, the bottom line is people here, to the tune of millions of people, still are seeking out air conditioning wherever they can, whether it's the coffee shop behind me because it's a small business that has power and has had power for days now, the only one on this street really, or people's homes, neighbors, or cooling centers across the city. People are doing what they can to stay cool. And we want to get an update from CenterPoint Energy right now. Michelle Hundley, who's been keeping us informed this entire time with CenterPoint Energy, is joining us yet again this morning. Michelle, we are grateful for your time. I know your company is working hard around the clock, but tell us, as we go and approach midday here on day 4 after the storm going through, can you give us a quick update? What is the state of things?
Hi, Justin. Thank you so much again for having me. Yeah, so, of course, again, our customers are in this extreme heat, and we understand and empathize with them. We are doing our absolute best to get them up and running as quickly and safely as possible. To date, we have restored more than 1.1 million customers. We plan to restore 400,000 more customers by the end of day of Friday, which is tomorrow, and then 350,000 more by the end of the day Sunday, which is roughly 85% of all of the customers that were impacted by this storm. Some of the hardest hit area I think that you've seen are, Brazoria, where the hurricane made landfall, Matagorda, and up to 45 corridor. Unfortunately, they may experience prolonged outages, but we are doing our best to get our crews out there as quickly as possible. And I'd like to also share, we've been hearing that, some of the customers have been frustrated, and we certainly understand that. But if you see our crews out there, please be kind, and please allow them access to the property. That's very important that they're able to do that restoration.
So, Michelle, question for you, because the two words we've heard a lot this morning here in Edo, the east end of Houston, is frustration and fatigue. So what is being done for customers to... Obviously, I know you're working hard to the tune of 12,000 frontline employees to get power restored as quickly as possible. You've set a timeline. But what do we say to those folks who have had to deal with this back in May for the derecho, now, and even people still talk about the deep freeze back in 21. They're fatigued over all these power outages. In fact, we had one lady say to us this morning, it seems like every time it rains, the power goes out. What do we say?
Yeah, well, certainly, and I think you probably are better equipped to talk about, how we're seeing many more storms, and they're much more, harsh. So we're seeing that as well. But we know that our customers are counting on us, and we are committed to working diligently to have them, back up and running as quickly as we possibly can. And we're not going to stop working until the very last customer is back up and running.
Michelle, question for you. Going kind of back to 21 and then 2 months ago with the derecho and now Beryl, has CenterPoint and really the power infrastructure, the power companies here in Texas, have changes been made to kind of combat climate change, solidify the system a little bit more? What are power companies doing? And I know you can only speak to CenterPoint, but what are you doing actively to try to make it a little stronger so maybe with the next storm, especially this early in hurricane season, maybe it won't be as big an issue?
Yeah, no, certainly. So we actually have been already utilizing some stronger infrastructure, and some of our customers may see this. We have some power poles that are made of resin material, so it looks a little bit different than the wooden poles. And so we've even already seen some progress there, where there will be some of those poles that we have already replaced will be standing next to a wooden pole. And of course, these wooden poles can't withstand necessarily the winds, and so they get broken. And these resin poles are much stronger and can withstand the wind and will be standing, and so that will get us to bounce back much quicker, right, from a storm. So we're already implementing that plan. We also recently just filed a resiliency plan with the state, and in that resiliency plan, there are additional infrastructure, developments that we would like to include. But we've already been including some additional resiliency to our system, and we're just going to continue to do that so that we can certainly serve our customers the best.
Interesting about the power poles and kind of the updated technology behind that. Is CenterPoint actively, even in between storms when the weather is nice, if you will, are you going through and systematically changing out poles to solidify the system?
Yes, absolutely. So like I said, our customers are probably already seeing some of these poles within their communities. So we do have a plan where we are already utilizing these higher ability impact, poles that can receive that impact a little bit more. And so both in our transmission as well as our distribution poles, yes.
Interesting. Yes, that's interesting technology. We'll have to come and take a look at those. That's very interesting. And Michelle, just going forward, I know, so 1.1 by last night, 400,000 more by Friday, and I believe 350,000 more by Sunday night. That still leaves a couple 100,000 customers going into next week, 1 week from the storm, likely and potentially at least without power. So is there a longer-term timeline to get everybody back?
Absolutely. That is our goal, of course. And so, this storm, unfortunately, we had a lot of vegetation that was uprooted. We talked, I think, a little bit about this yesterday. The trees and vegetation, Houston has a lot of that. And so that has really caused a lot of issues in terms of breaking down the wires and the poles, and that takes time. A quick stat that might be of interest is that if you see one of these poles that have been damaged, either broken in half or on the ground, it'll take between 4 to 6 days to get that pole restored. And so that's one of the reasons why we have these new fiberglass poles, resin poles that we are implementing so that we don't have that issue going forward.
All right, Michelle Hundley, we are again grateful for your time and grateful for all of those 12,000 frontline workers who are out there in this heat as well, trying to restore power. Thanks again, Michelle. We'll talk again soon. So, guys, it really is amazing to think, Jen, about that new technology. We're going to, I know my producer, Mike Bogan, over here, we're going to try to get with Michelle and actually see what they're doing because, again, Jen, that frustration and fatigue is real for the folks who are living through this yet again, and they all do talk about these three events. Beryl now, 2 months ago, the derecho, and a few years ago, the deep freeze. How many people have lived without power in this part of the world? And here we are doing it again. So it'll be interesting to see that upgraded technology and what they're doing to move forward. Jen, and to you.
Yes, and maybe that explains a little bit how long this is taking to restore power for everyone. Justin, great updating there in Houston. But we're still dealing with some of the remnants of Beryl. It has caused